So we are live right now. Hi, everyone, for another beautiful Wednesday. It's the 8th episode that I welcome you to. It's the Rise in Unity webcast that I put myself out to in the wake of coronavirus pandemic and figure out how I can be valuable and helpful and share my message to the world. And super to have you with us. And today I have my amazing guest, my inspirer and empower, Jukka-Pekka Heikkilä. Hi, Jukka-Pekka.
Hi,
when I heard you, thank you. Yeah, thanks for being here. When I heard your name first time when I moved to Finland, Jukka and then Pekka, it sounds really funny. Like, is this for real?
That's a common question. Yeah.
Yeah. So it sounds a bit like a childish fairy tale names, and there's plenty of them in Finland. But that not to say how hardcore you are in your work, and really happy to take you out of your busy calendar. So this episode is about driving impact of communities, community projects, and how they really work for us, whoever we are, artists, entrepreneurs, academia, people from academia, and to really showcase what we're doing right now and how can we bring more meaning and purpose to our work in the future post-crisis. And Jukka-Pekka Heikkilä, you are a person who makes business at the Burning Man. You're meshing up projects with art, academia, entrepreneurship. You're the co-founder of Start-Up Circus, which is a pitching competition. You bring in artists, and you're a fellow, you work in Aalto University with the research, but you're also a Newton Fellow in a Royal Society in the UK. So you have like tons of hats on you, and I really want to hear how you burn for your passion to bring community building into your work, into heavy corridors that may be hard to explain them, the essence, but also give us the entrepreneurs, the people who, my communities, people who are women, international working women, and they are international students, they are people like myself who moved here as spouses, and also people who are interested about Finland, because it has done so much of buzzwords on poster child of innovation and the free country, the happiest country in the world for the second time. So looking forward. Happy to have you here.
Thanks. Yeah, those are really nice questions there. And of course, I need to first say that everyone in Finland is of course very upset that we are the happiest nation on the planet. That's the driver of the happiness, and I guess that's with them. Also comes with our talk is why this is a good country, why this is a good place for communities, is the meaning and also the simple life that is appreciated here. And like I have very fresh example. I'm a visiting scholar these days in Stanford, and I spent the autumn there. Mm-hmm. And as we know, it is place seen for innovation, but as we also know, it's declining quite fast. And especially during this crisis, we have there is one recent review in MIT Tech Review was simply they were stating that Silicon Valley, it has been coming up for a while, which brings the Nordics. The Nordics were again referred there. Is that okay? These societies are doing something right. They are not solving the problem, but they are more inclusive, and that comes to the communities. And that's what I also see. I used to work outside Finland a lot, like basically 250 days. The most recent example is in Middle East. It was about women empowerment, empowering women startup entrepreneurs, basically. And then before that in Pyongyang, where I did with the teams startup events. And then there is of the Burning Stories, that is 15 strong artist and scientist collective. And these are all international global projects that have started here. Mm-hmm. Also the Start-Up Circus. And there is one lesson is as to everybody who is living in the country is and answering also one of your questions, like how do you basically do these type of projects, for example, is that it's never about the individual. It's always about the people around you. And that's something I'm a bit critical on the current startup culture, and I hope that changes, because it's always there is the individual at the top of the pyramid.
Mm-hmm.
And it's always that the individual has made to the top of the pyramid because of the people around him, and that we should remind ourselves. And also the community should be brought more forward. And one very practical example what I want to share is all of my projects. This is actually a bit sad, but it's very true.
Yeah.
The story goes in every one of them, and they are impact-driven science projects, but they could be entrepreneurial projects as well. They've been always rejected in Finland. Like, no, you cannot do this. But then you get like Royal Society comes on board, Stanford comes on board. Then suddenly it is like, wow, that's a magnificent project. Well, it's still the same. It's simply stamped. And so keep in mind that this culture is slow and needs, like, it's still low self-esteem. So it's not about you. It's about it's about the collective. And that's my advice. That don't let this country turn you down if you're rejected for the first 5 times or 10 times.
Right. So like keep on knocking doors.
Just keep doing it.
Right. And so those who are listening in, thank you for following us. I'm together with Jukka-Pekka Heikkilä, a postdoctoral fellow at Aalto University and in also Royal University in Stanford, talking how to really go on with your mission, because you're very independent in the way you work. So if you have questions to Jukka-Pekka Heikkilä regarding community, regarding entrepreneurship, or Finnish, finding yourself in Finland, please do not hesitate to ask questions.
Sorry, I'll interrupt quickly. At Jukka-Pekka.com, there will be a database on the topic of this, the most recent research, and also blog postings, and what organizations to follow that are working on communities and COVID crisis. Like, what are the future communities? So
you actually research on communities?
Yeah, I look on regularly, because what's coming up is the surprise I mentioned you is like it's obviously the life will be much more local, and I have the honor to work with very talented people here. So we are slowly kicking off a project that is about how can we all create, it's action research, how can we create more meaningful and participatory entrepreneurial landscapes? So that it's more inclusive, and it's kind of like new ways of entrepreneuring, not only for profit, but also, of course, for the purpose and new ways of organizing. So I'm more in organizational science even these days. Yeah, so that's at the website.
Congratulations. I hope it really goes smoothly to the top.
Surely you are invited to the events when we can do events. Yeah.
Yes.
And what kind of events?
We can do. Yeah. Well, we actually worked together with you on a event last year at your series of fostering giving back culture, and I was really happy to be introduced to you and really see how a lot of like-minded people like myself, like you, to really bring in to say, listen, social capital is real. It's the key element in succeeding. It has economic impact. It has perfect well-being impact on yourself, but also people around you. And so it's one of the best speeches I've delivered, and the experiences to be in the community. So I thank you really for that feeling of like, yes, there is that tribe. And I, of course, I enjoy speaking to other events, but this was like something really hardcore in social capital, on mentoring, on community building, that I'm also happy to work with today with different projects, including Hankin International Talent program with international students. So a lot of seed planting there. So as I ask other speakers, Jukka-Pekka, how are you going on through this forced isolation, and how these 3 months have been for you?
Yeah, that's a super good question. Thank you. I don't know how many of people who are seeing this now or later experience the same, but I've noticed it becomes quite a pattern is that when the crisis hit like with its full power, you kind of first is a lot of inspiration, like, okay, this can be like it's a momentum.
Right.
Then as it goes on, you're like, you fall off to kind of the cliff, like, oh, this is never ending and nothing is changing. Actually, it's only going to get worse. And then the reality which we see now is coming in, like that people have had a lot of time for reflection, which has been tough, but it has been also beautiful. So and it's this kind of period. I hope people got the best out of it. Of course, it's tough, but also it was a good opportunity. Science is doing better than ever. New forms of collaboration and so many new publications because now we have time.
And also a lot of research projects also on COVID. I can see a lot of funding offered for that. And
a lot. It's such a fundamental change in science also, like not only that the disciplines realize that they cannot do it alone as one discipline, they need to be a community of disciplines. And also there is a heavy emphasis that because science is now so popular, which is a great thing, that it also needs new means to engage with different audiences, with the public, with the people who actually benefit from it, not only the scientists themselves. And that's a great thing. It's something, yeah.
I think it's also about accountability. Say, okay, right, scientists, they do get funding to research, but how can they get that science out from their silos? I mean, we all are in our bubbles, so that to work across sectors, to right now respecting the scientists, researchers who all are making our everyday more, feel it with more clarity and fact-based information. But yeah, I actually was listening to Maria Gabriel, European Commissioner on Education, Culture, and Research Innovation, and I actually asked her question, so how are you going to make sure that in research innovation funding, because there's a big chunk of it from European Commission, I said, how are you going to make sure that there are people, young people, the minority groups are also part of that effort? Because there's a lot of research or like money given out to this diversity related stuff, innovation related, but it doesn't really have that intuitive, let's say, impact or like how to make it more lasting.
Well, there is a fundamental flaw in the system, which is now being repaired. And that's like, I give you an example, like it's, if people ask me what I do for work is I put first that I bridge communities. Secondly, I'm an academic. But the thing is, there is no reward on the first one. So if you communicate science outside the scientific community in any other format than scientific journal, it doesn't impact your career. The only thing that impacts your careers and future grants is the way scientific journals you publish, and you need to publish in top journals. That takes all your time. So, but now the system is being fixed that you actually are requested to provide plans how you communicate your research outside the scientific audience, which is great, that people can benefit it more and more. And of course, then it comes down to the projects that are meant for community building, where basically also the scientists are expected to give back, to have a bit of the community mindset, because in academia, the default in management science, the default team is four persons, because that's the names you get in the publication.
Okay.
Boom. So it's quite limiting. You don't have, in science, in medical science, you can have 100 authors, but not in the management journals. So it kind of,
Yeah, but my question is like how to make sure that those scientists, let's say, depending on the topic they're writing, how can they make sure that there's more stakeholder involvement and have, or even projects, which are like big projects, that they have a steering group with representing the target group or groups they're looking at, you know?
Yeah. Two things on that is actually too often research is done or science is done without seeking the relevance of it. I give you an example, like putting now a survey to the startup communities in Helsinki and asking what they actually need. If I would put out the project, that's what I do. What I would do first. Not only thinking about the problem. Then the second is that you have workshops that engage, and of course the steering committees that engage wide range of backgrounds. That does this make sense? Like, because we are in the bubbles, and we should be, but also that we need to come out of there, and that's basically how it. And the last example is which is very beautiful thing. I hope it gets financed. It's a co-created publication where everyone who contributes will be an author. But that would be a very beautiful thing, and surely you're going to hear about it later. But it's that type of that bring meaning and participation.
Okay, that sounds interesting. I'm writing a piece to Europe's World on making sure that, like, how can the research and the funding that goes to this can be also more inclusive, participatory. So maybe we should do it together.
Absolutely. And the last example is, for example, the Burning Stories Research Project Forum that is open for all, and ethnographers study the discussions in the forum, and we create conference content from the forum. The data is not owned by Facebook. The data is owned by the user, and it's stuff like that. That it's
and it's connected to Burning Stories. Is it connected to Burning Man?
Yeah. And also expanding to the cultures, participatory cultures.
Yeah, and can you tell to people what is Burning Man? Because we can't exactly assume that.
It used to be an event for 70,000 people. Then it grew a global community of 4 million people, and it's about mainly about arts and artistic communities, and basically building yourself something that you and the people who do your projects with couldn't imagine. And then the highlight has been a week-long event in the US, but obviously that's not coming in the near time. So it's basically doing art projects here now locally, and people from really diverse backgrounds, and it's all inclusive and good parties.
So you did that you went to US it's in Nevada every year. And it's quite expensive, I heard, and you live in a real desert.
So you live in a desert, and you bring everything you want, everything you need with you. And 2016, it was a peer learning school platform that was developed together with Demos Helsinki.
Okay.
That was taken there. Then 2017, Space on Fire, that was 120 square meter wooden dome that we burned it. Then 2018 was the year of Burning Stories, that collects stories from people who go to this event on the transformation.
Right.
And last year we built a sauna. And so,
of course,
sauna. Yeah.
Storytelling in town, then you burn it.
But what I also recommend to everyone is going outside the usual in terms of community engagement, in terms of the people, IACs, and being open-minded, like people from diverse backgrounds, and keeping in mind, no matter what the status is, this is the best advice I've been given by 2 academic mentors. Jukka, it doesn't matter who comes across to you, we are all people. And that's the best, that's really good advice. Like, no matter what the title is, like, we are all people. And the more normal you are.
So it's about, having the integrity towards the other and dignity towards recognizing the dignity of the other person. So it doesn't matter who comes across you, we are still people. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, but I mean, especially in Finland, like we are a bit stuck on the people's educational backgrounds and people's statuses. No, we shouldn't. Yeah, so that's what that it goes to both ends. Like if it's a CEO who you're meeting, he's still a person. If it's a person who is making money, it's still a person. Yeah.
Right. And you mentioned Demos Helsinki, and those who are listening, Demos Helsinki is a think tank in Finland, and I do recommend you to check them out. They have great publications and webinars. Yeah. They did one recently on social change. It was like mind-blowing. I really enjoy it.
I was there too. Yeah, it was good. Yeah.
Yeah, it was. And so, but back to questions. We have to like marathon through it because I know you're busy and we want to be on topic. So you do a lot of connect volunteering, fostering giving back culture, mentoring, so like really giving back skills. So how does that and all your projects that you work, how do they give birth to new working cultures? And yeah, let's start with that. How do you actually see the impact of your work to make better companies or better services and products?
Yeah, for the companies, I cannot answer like these. These are more of a civic initiatives, and I see myself as a civic activist more, and that's in the conferences I speak. It's activist and science conferences. So it's more about creating both societal change, be it an initiative that has certain values, and those values are then openly communicated, and then people can join. And sometimes, yes, there is project funding. In many cases, no. So money is never like you're not getting rich in this business, no. And that's then for the scalable tech startups can be for that. But here it's about building.
You're taking the values, so I want to hear what values, because then they go over in normal everyday behavior. So that's, if you can come on.
So basically the values, for example, I give you the most recent one is let's give the project in Beirut called WhatsApp Women Tech Startup, and then Burning Stories. They are both all inclusive volunteer-driven platforms that are like if you're interested in science, if you're interested in arts, Burning Stories is like where you can try out things. And now we have the collective of 15 people. Then with WhatsApp, it was more about if you want to try out and you have given mentoring workshop, if you have if you want to develop whatever skill it may be, you can try out, and this is safe environment, and you can also like I failed so many times, and it simply it's about how quickly you reflect and bounce back, and of course that comes with the business and the organizational structures as less hierarchy as possible. I'm having my troubles with the university hierarchies, but I live with that. But I think that's old-fashioned in that sense, but of course needed. But it's so whatever one wishes to build in herself and for the bigger cause. And with the WhatsApp, it was about equality, especially equal opportunities. Not about it was targeted for women, but about equality that we have in this society a bit more than in the Middle East, but also inclusive to men. So it's that kind of values.
Yeah. So those values give the backing to, you talk about the communities where you can experiment, and we talk a lot about experimentation, and we need to have this culture of experimentation and accepting trial and error to on the way to our excellence. Whoever we are, personally, professionally, or as an organization.
I really like what you are saying. Experimental communities is that's something. It's highly recommendable for everyone when you hear it, and also a word of, and now comes word of caution is in other word, which is resilience. It's all over the place, and everybody wants to be as resilient as possible, and and I'm seeing that as a cryptocurrency on that. So don't fall into that trap. But what is very beautiful is intentional. That word is coming up, and that concept is coming up. Be it in intentional volunteering, intentional communities. Please.
It gives you more fulfillment, but also make sure that you don't turn out in end up in a burnout and figure out like I'm still trying to find it.
With the intention, it's very tricky now. When you mention the burnout, it's very good. Is the Bay community is always work, and I'm not talking about the projects I co-created. It is about co-creation. Not maybe I came up with the idea, but in the people in the end is that the communities really quickly, there is this collective intelligence. Like if you go there, if one goes there, I'm going to take this, and I'm going to get help to this and this, and one is not giving anything. That's going to be very short story, like really short story. And that's also the beauty of communities, that's the way they engage, is how much you give. But then comes the danger that everybody should be mindful. What's my bandwidth? If it's half an hour per week, fine. If it's half an hour per day, great. And all these being intentional and conscious how much, because there is no finances involved. Actually, it can be only draining finances.
Right. But it's a great way to obtain new skills and give back, because giving back, we also talked about it, it's the best form of self-care. And when you give back, you have that feeling that you're helping and you're part of something bigger. So it is
meeting new people.
Meeting new people, but also being helpful, right? And I have seen that even if right now there's a lot of companies losing jobs, I encourage everyone to still become a mentor, even if you're not in the job or don't have any task at the moment. It takes so little to empower another person, to show the way, or even just to open the real world, those who are studying, those who are trying to get a job or first internship. And this summer is going to be really tough on many, right?
Yes, it's going to be super tough for the society, for the whole planet. It's so now more than ever, communities are needed, and I also second that whatever the bandwidth may be, do share your time. There is a lot of people in the need, be it recent graduates, people who have recently moved to the country, everyone. So
contacting universities, NGOs, there is Volunteer Finland group, there is, really just Google, and there's plenty of things to do, I think. And so question then, what working culture do you envision, Jukka-Pekka?
Yeah, it's obviously things, there are advocates of those who like, okay, this was fundamental for going virtual. Yes, I respect that school, but I don't believe that school. I don't believe that this is sustainable in the longer term. We still need to go to the organizations with that have physical place. We like to spend time with people, and organizations and the working cultures create the most knowledge also informally. So, and that's where people actually spend their time and get the information they need. And that's how organizational culture is created. Without strong organizational culture, what's the working culture then? So that's where my view to the need of physical spaces in the work, and also that there are people, comes into the play. What's then the work itself? Couple of things are pretty clear. It's be more contract based for sure, so more entrepreneurial for sure, and also which means more uncertainty, but at the same time the institutions are changing, that it's more accepted that you are 20 years ago, 15 years ago, 10 years ago, if you were an entrepreneur, you were a loser, like you are living so uncertain life, but now it's like now it's that, okay, you can actually deal with the uncertainty. That's wow. And so that's the working life. And of course, skills, constant updating on tech, but not too much. Like that's also like learning 5 different coding languages. It's so some things will change in the work, but not fundamentally. I would hope certain things for longer change, but
I think the way I envision the working culture in the future, it is that to actually in Finland it's normal for many companies, because there is that trust from boss to employees across, to say, okay, of course you can do etätyö is remote work in Finnish, and I just want this to become more ubiquitous, that there is empathy, there is understanding that, okay, people can be on the edge and also extend that space and communication is always the key. But also the vision, I envision it that it's more open to the world, and I think right now we see everyone needing positive stories, regardless of that uncertainty, and we're tired of bad news. I interviewed a Russian Yle news journalist last week, and she said finally they said they have done an Yle survey that what Finnish people read, and they stopped looking at something, started looking something else than coronavirus news. So
that's brilliant. That's brilliant example. Guardian has a section these days, tired of corona news, and look this. And Guardian and Guardianese Guardian. So that even that level acknowledges it. It's great. And also the words you mentioned, like I really like it on trust, especially like what we have seen is quite unexceptional on the trust to each others and also to the society, and that brings me happiness. And I hope people, especially in this country but also nearby, like it's something that we can be very happy about, is that we have this trust. And then what has been surprising factor, and I hope again that people have experienced this, is the understanding. And what I mean by understanding is with the communities or with the co-workers, that simply when we might be tough on ourselves, that okay, I didn't make this and this in time, and then you announce it and it's fine. Like the world doesn't end if a deadline is missed. We are in the middle of pandemic, so like it's and now I see that people are a bit easier to themselves, not trying to act like it would be normal. And I think it's great that having that we can take a bit easier as well.
Right. I forgot to mention we have Aykut Özdemir with us, and it's saying Burning Man, what such a creative community. And Aykut was with us I think during our previous webinar webcast with Arto Sivonen, another great community leader, and we were speaking about how to create a community, and he also mentioned very similar words. Be intentional. You need to know what really drives you, and 3, to really find the people that knock on doors, because in Finland we may not be as like open, forward-coming, but everyone wants to be helpful, and if you email, it's still most likely you're gonna get a reply.
It's very again excellent what you mentioned is a person who is also in the Burning Stories and has been in the public quite a bit, Frank Martela. He said that when he wrote the book, basically a meaningful life and happiness, was that what brings most happiness to people, it seems that helping out others. Yep.
It's that simple, helping out others. It's amazing. Like we're going back to basics, and it's just so, kindness is just the new cool, it's
that is great. That is really great. Kindness is super popular.
So how kind are you today? And when we're talking about impact, so I will tell you, Jukka-Pekka, why I think this community resilience is important, and we need to appreciate community builders, visible and invisible, is because they feel it's something fluffy, or is it something for NGOs? Community can be misused by businesses by trying to build up communities that just to buy our products. The art is really biased or some very one-sided views. So how can you, as a scientist, you research on communities, can you give us what are the impacts of community culture?
First of all, it's a kind of holy grail, impact measurement. Everybody wants to measure impact. It's tricky. So how do you measure impact of, let's say, a person's impact of recently established community? That's pretty hard to put frameworks on that. But of course, you have a set of tools, and there are different books. Actually, one is on I'll put it to the chat, Lichfield, community impact evaluation. So basically, and it's from Princeton. It's 10 years old, but still it's good. It's that there are these frameworks that you can apply. And also for community building, there is community building canvas where you are asked to list, like, okay, these are the issues we want to make an impact on, and then you start to measure those. There is no solution that fits for all, or if there would be, it would be so complex. There are certain projects that have listed these are the impacts you can measure, and of course, one really useful thing is always try, whatever it may be, small or big project, anything, connect it to the sustainable development goals. And there somebody has done some measurements with those. And then you will look those, learn those, and connect them. And then you're doing good for the planet. The community is surely intentional, and you will find
the impact. So the SDG, Sustainable Development Goals, again, we need to decipher that, because when we are in our own little bubble, we think everyone else SDGs, United Nations SDGs, by 2030, 17 goals, and you can pick your choice and see where you want to make impact. Katie Mayfield. Hi, Katie, if you're watching with us, our common friend. She says, kindness is the new cool. It is.
Yeah,
and
it is.
So yeah, in regards to your work, and that we have, you really show how to work across sectors. That's also a huge mega trend in any policy making and any successful lasting change. If you want to help entrepreneurs who want to also connect that, right? Because I'm also an entrepreneur trying to connect NGOs, higher education, companies, to really recognize the power of communities and mentor programs. What would be your advice, so that if you want to work across sectors, what could be this help?
Want to work across sectors. By the cell, do you mean join a community, establish a community, or join, make yourself visible, your skills visible, or?
I think in making skills visible, because I'm thinking those people right now who work across sectors or need to pivot their businesses in consulting or in outreach communications.
The news I got 2 weeks ago, the news I got 6 weeks ago from Silicon Valley, that everybody is pivoting, literally everyone. So everyone. We are again, like, probably the whole planet is pivoting their lives to a certain extent, which leads to the fact that two paths. There are the entities that are doing great work, but of course, those communities that used to do events, of course, that has transformed a lot. So in this country, obviously, like, it's, if you're an entrepreneur, if you're in the tech, it's the Shortcut in Maria 01 that is doing a great job. Sister organization to Slush, and hosts various type of trainings. And I used to be, and still am, I used to be a board member, and when it started 2016, and can highly recommend the Shortcut. Then there are different artistic communities and a lot of art obviously going on, and of course the burner community is Burning Man Finland on Facebook. And again, these communities around the planet are rediscovering themselves because nobody's doing events. But that doesn't then affect the third one, which is establishing your own with the like-minded people, 5 to 10 people, 3 people. We established accidentally 100 person project by simply 3 persons sitting at the living room in the renovation, and then it ended up as 100 team project. It's basically like everything is possible when you are with like-minded people.
It is.
Alone, nothing is. Things will get difficult alone.
Yeah, and I've learned with Citra Lab last week. Like year, I did this fellowship, short fellowship with Citra Lab, and it's systemic change and all these iterations. And it proved that when you work in groups, it's much better to go together and work together than working alone, and no man is an island or no woman is an island. And what I also learned is when we are working right now, we are still siloed. We're working in different sectors that we need to kind of mesh up how you show in your work. I know it's not easy, but what it really shows that when right now we're insecure, right now we don't know if we're going to get the job or not. It's that passion, that pride right now, it closes us up. So it's nicer when you turn that pride into passion, it opens you up to other colleagues, to see the other point of view, to see people with different backgrounds and not take things as a defensive mechanism, you know? And I feel that's where my working cultures, that inclusive working culture I'm working towards, is that where companies and leaders, they recognize that difference, having a different point of view is good. And it's not rocking the boat, and it's okay to rock your boat.
Tell me about it. It's less taboo these days in this country, but it used to be. So getting to the point where I am in life, like I say always, like, I don't recommend this to anyone. Now the society is a bit more tolerant to new ideas, yeah. But it's slow warming. The beauty in this society is that when idea is accepted with funders or decision makers, it's then accepted. That's it. Like it's solid. But it takes it. If you have a new idea, if you're an entrepreneur, it takes time in the northern hemisphere longer than it would take elsewhere. that's the advice I can take. That be patient.
So be patient, but still pragmatic. I like these two values.
Yeah.
So yeah,
and be brave. Yeah.
Yes. So be brave, patient, pragmatic to make it here. And if we need to finish soon. So the advice for people to, again, for right now, what's going afterwards. So if we're able right now to rethink what we can do with our workplaces, student places, internships, how can they really take that community mindset that you're so promoting and researching, so that, you know, we can be much more ourselves in the workplace or in a study place? What could be your advice?
More ourselves. It's about of being really human. In that sense, it's easy to say being human, but what I meant by this, I noticed the difference in the working culture, how I perceive it, then how I was approached was 4 years ago when I started to simply be more open about my emotions, about my state, how am I doing, and not pretending. And we, of course, have different roles for different settings, but always trying to be as real and also bringing out, no matter how difficult the situation is, bringing out the joy. And we have hopefully a publication coming up about the use of humor in extreme situations. And humor is like that we need. Be dark, depends what you're a fan of, or very, very nice childish humor. Everything is beautiful, and that also I've noticed, like it's a great vehicle. You know, it's a great thing in life to have a bit of fun.
So to need and also humor is a very shared understanding of your community around. If you laugh at the same joke, it's you're already in a community.
And it's a universal thing. Yeah, exactly.
So I feel, for me, when I was in Denmark, I understood Danish culture through Danish humor, and I mean, it's still too much for me sometimes, the irony.
I had a chat yesterday to Denmark where the same topic was that it was a person who had moved from Italy. Said it's the jokes are pretty intense on.
Yeah, it's like somebody slapped him. get out of here. Did you mean it? No, I'm joking. It's like, what? So, and I mean, then the next level is the Nordic joke. So I feel it's thank you for advising. So that, I mean, again, it's universal things. We're feeling inequality is rising, right? But I think through what this episode you told us is that just your bold ideas can be excluding you from the community. And it's not, I mean, we're talking about exclusion on the job market. We want to make companies more approachable. We want to make the whole society more approachable. And this has all been a red thread through my webcast, finding that beautiful community feeling in Finland. You know, they're like, no, are you joking? It's dark, it's winter, people are not smiling, you have the Finnish nightmares, you know. But it's true, like, I think it's opening up and standing core, I mean, holding your core dream or some idea. We don't even know how to dream sometimes, you know. That is the Citra Lab study showed that the young people get stressed out by the idea of dreams. And that, I feel, the social capital is needed, that someone tells you that these are the dreams and these are the opportunities. And
it's good. Towards the ending is one of the latter advices is to dream big. And it's fine to dream big. It's fine to dream big as a collective, and then the reality will kick in. Like it's if I would have a, like, if this is a project, always the goal has been here, which is impossible, and then the reality is somewhere in the middle where it has landed through mistakes that everybody acknowledges. Okay, we did a mistake. Let's move on.
Right.
And so dreaming big, especially in times like this. It's super important. So dream big.
Dream big. Okay. And in the startup field and university field, so where you could pinpoint the good, the bad, or the ugly, where people could get the realistic picture also from you that, you know, it's not always rosy as it seems, or there has been some positivity but not, you know, reflected in. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, and I give advice is what I found recently extremely useful is do a bit of searching, maybe 1-2 hours on the organizations that you really highly valued, and all of these days have a newsletter. Subscribe to those, and that gives be it universities on MIT, Stanford, social innovation, like they provide really good content on the think tanks, different foundations put out. In Germany, there are brilliant ones. Like, it's simply finding out, and of course in Finland there are many on the community newsletters, and then on if you want to stay tuned for academia. I subscribe, well, of course, I get the Aalto newsletters, but for example, Sustainability Hub from Aalto, very good one. Helsinki University newsletters, it's these kind of summaries that are sent. And then if you want to go hardcore, subscribe to the Science, and they also, like, Science gives you the cutting edge scientific news, and it has a Science magazine, which is more like more of a magazine type, which is again really good. And these are all free. And Economist has the COVID prints for free. Like, this is the time for free content also, which is.
I have made actually a life hack. So if you're in Helsinki in Finland, you can download a free app called Press Reader. I just took a screenshot. So Press Reader, looks something like this. You download it, you get all the magazines for free. You just need to have a library card in Finland. And obviously it's a Finnish goodie. It's a Finnish perk, and it's the
Thank you.
it is free. Press Reader with your help card. Get in there. It's excellent. I get to read Finnish, Swedish news. I get to read Economist, and it really keeps you up to date. So those who have joined us, really nice to have you with us. If you have any questions to Jukka-Pekka Heikkilä, he's a postdoctoral fellow at Aalto University. He is the scientist behind community building, the topic that I'm so passionate about. And I think we had a great discussion. I've learned a lot.
I really admire how but a prime example, like how you stepped up when clearly the society is went to halt, and these we need examples like your work is doing now. Like you step up to these episodes, and then it's very beautiful. Thanks for inviting. Like we see, yeah, in the music communities, it's for example in German with the techno music, it's united we stream. It's that the DJs are united on streaming, and this rise in unity. Like it's a beautiful thing. Thank you.
Thank you, Jukka-Pekka. I think that's the point that when everything is predicted to be gloomy, is that we don't want to get any racism or nationalism coming up after this stuff is going back to normal, that we can really rethink how we treat each other. And I know it's not always that optimistic, but at least I'm adamant to believe, because I'm success because of the communities that help me, and I help as well in return. And with people like you and all those speakers that I invite, I think this is really proof that we're better together.
Absolutely. Yeah. And thanks for everyone joining on this. It's also a pleasure.
Great, and thanks for representing your work. And we will be, this video will be available on YouTube. And next week I have a Facebook expert, Trine Rankilä from Denmark, and she is a kick-ass expert on how to make it or break it on your Facebook community. So we're gonna go deep into that. Okay. But good luck, Jukka-Pekka, with your new project, and I look forward to see that event.
Thank you.
So we'll continue to community. Thanks.
Yeah. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.